every city you burn, I'm gonna build one high.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtrothi, and it is April 27th, YC125, and boy, do we have a lot to cover. It is the EVE Universe Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's it going, guys? Settle on in. Like the stream if you haven't. Like the video if you haven't. We are going to be jumping into it. I want to give a couple seconds for everything to settle. We have a lot to go over today. We have, the current war status of the Shadow War campaign, which involves the Caldari having completed their task in research, and now the Phase 2 building phase can begin. We had seen a lot about Phase 2 prior to the event starting. However, I was hesitant to give details because I knew that things could change, and some things did change slightly. But either way, it's out now, so we can talk about it. And I ran we looked at both of the sites yesterday, and I can tell you about what it is. And maybe at the end here, if we have time, I might be able to check out some of the sites. We'll see if old boy Drake here is gonna let me. Hey, Raymond Barber, thank you for that. All right, so, but let's go ahead. I do want to begin with a little bit of news, I suppose. Yeah. Well, no, I'll save that to the end. The login screen? The login screen is actually really cool now, huh? They put in the new login screen for the upcoming event, the upcoming Capsuleer Day event. And what I think, I have a lot to say. So that's the other thing we're going to talk about today. Thank you for getting me back on track. So after that, we're going to talk about the new Capsuleer Day event, whose details dropped. And I started out by saying on Singularity, but then I corrected it and deleted that. And the reason why is because, like, this event actually is already very unique to me in several key ways. There's several things already that I've seen that I've never seen before, and a lot of questions that this event already begins to be asked. So we have a lot of ground to cover there. But the reason why I say not Singularity is because they actually patched it onto Tranquility at the same time. So rather than going over to Singularity to go look at the skins and everything like that, we can just do it live on Sissy, or on Tranquility. Hey, thank you, Ganai, for that gifted membership. Going to Jan Gunaju.
You have been promoted.
What happened? Did I miss somebody else? Or David Bartley? David Bartley. Oh, I see. That was the gifted. Dan Bartley is the one that got it, I think. I think that's how that works. I always get so confused. Either way, thank you very much for that. All right. So before we get all into that, though, we do want to cover the Shadow War stuff. I am too. I will admit that my thoughts on this are still kind of scrambled. I'm still thinking through a lot of stuff because of what we've just found. So bear with me on that. But let us begin with everyone liking the stream. With a Shadow War update. As we can see, the Caldari have completed their track completely. They have now begun the construction phase. And as of this morning, they had only turned in... You can see that they're turning it in steps. I don't know if that means it represents individual turn-ins or whatnot, but I think it's also just... What I honestly think this is at this point is that since it's rounding, This is just every single time it goes up a full percent, right? So we really can't, unless somebody wants to come forward and tell about what they found so far. It's going to be very difficult for us to know whether or not the turn-ins are the same amount for this one as before. So we're just going to have to wait. I'm just cutting that one off on the head because I was already getting asked that multiple times yesterday about whether or not the turn-ins are going to be the same quantity. It's hard to say. But we do see that the Gallente has ticked up, which makes a lot of sense now, right? Because it used to be that the Caldari were taking up a bunch of the data cores, and in these big chunks, this is representing... I mean, this isn't just the effort of a single person running sites, most likely. This is market flexing, at least on some level. So with that changed, as I've mentioned before, the market dynamics has changed. At this point, there is only so many data cores, so this would be like, there's only like 40,000 more data cores required for the Gallente to get their thing. So if you're sitting on the capability of building stellar data cores at this point, this rate could only go faster and faster as people realize, oh crap, it's sell it now or don't sell it at all, right? Because once the Gallente finish this thing, all of the stellar research tech BPC stuff, blueprints are going to be basically worthless unless something else happens. Be at it another month. We'll see. Like I said, I expect it to just be like, this is going to increase just as the price in stellar transmuter stuff drops and whatnot. But the other one to watch is the relay tech. So the other thing that's interesting about the stellar tech is that because the Gallente has hit the 50% threshold, Gallente sites are now spawning. Okay. Now the first day they didn't have any loot in them, but now they do. So you can actually get stellar transmuter data cores from the Gallente sites. However, if you're doing it for the Gallente, you can farm your own side for data cores, but you will not get personal points for it. No PP for stealing from your own guys. All right. It specifically says that you have to go to the Caldari, Amar, and Mimitar sites in order to get the points. That said, you'd still get it for building the data cores and turning them in, if that's what is the big deal. Now, from what I've seen so far, the Caldari have not started dropping the stellar transmuter rate at a 1-to-1 rate yet. It's still about 30 to 50% more transmuter, or more relay than stellar transmuter. I think people will just sell more raw materials because they share with both tech. I don't know what you mean by that. Like the minerals is relatively cheap. The recursive computing modules, I think that the prices of that have started to come down, but aren't like all the way there yet. But there is new PI that's necessary for the construction thing. But yeah, I think that the other side requiring the PI still is still going to keep a pressure up on that, because yeah, you're right, it's shared. But the actual stellar doodads, the data cores, the decryptors, or the whatever data fragments, all that's worthless when the Gallente finish their task. That said, we now can also do the mining in Pokvin and the data sites in Pokvin. The mining sites. Hey, Pizza Fund. Excellent. Thanks.
Connecting.
Thanks, Sean.
Pizza Fund.
Thank you very much. So one thing I read incorrectly originally is that, well, I kept on saying that the road drone sites are going to be more popular in Velez Cry. And that is true for the data sites. The mining sites are can be anywhere within the Pochfin, and they seem significantly more rare. Insofar as, like, it seems like there's only like 3 of them in system or out there at any given time, right? By the way, I'm just going to throw out there that my guess is that, and this is ridiculous, by the way, I don't even know if it's true, but here's my tinfoil. The reason why they had to set the respawn rate of the flashpoints back to 0 is because whatever they did to fix that was causing their new sites to not respawn correctly. That's my conspiracy theory. All right, moving on. So there's new stuff required, and let's look at some of that. So, as I said, the new data sites are quite a bit all over the place. It is worth noting that both... You've seen 4 of the sites in one system? 4 of the ore sites? Are you sure the ore sites? Okay, maybe... I mean, there could be more than... I'm not... Okay, I'm saying my observation. So, it could be that they've increased or whatnot, but, like, everyone that I've seen that was going around had difficulty finding the mining sites, but no difficulty finding the data sites. So... wait, data sites in Pochvin can drop completed components at current, so not worth doing the mining sites? Well, yes and no. Hold on. So first and foremost, that's actually really interesting. Secondly, it's still worthwhile because it's still Rakavine, and we'll get to that in a second, okay? But as you can see here, there's a couple things to note here. Oh, shit. There's a couple things to note here. The data sites... I did not scan these data sites. They are totally just there, right? Now, the first time somebody warps to them... See, one of them, 1.8, 1.5... So I can just go 2.5... warp to within... and then control space, and you can see that it appeared on my D-scan, or on my overview. So it appears as a beacon on an overview after anyone is warped to it at all. Inside, there's a bunch of data cans. Man. The things I do. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's get silly. All right, we are warping to the data site. Hopefully I don't get decloaked. Always the big risk. All right. So, now I'm at the data site. Let's just minimize some of the stuff. As you can see, the data site is actually pretty big. There's all these cans around it. I can't show it yet, but we'll probably be able to see it later once I burn off far enough. But the mining site is not dead space. So the rocks are really, really far away from each other in the mining site. Enough that you can just keep warping between them pretty consistently. Now, there's starving, tangling, and anchoring via Skarbenik. Skarbenik, by the way, is the Slavic spirit that guards the mines and crystals. So, a little on the nose there. The anchoring do not scram. They use warp disruption. Tangling use webs. Starving uses newts. It's kind of interesting that the Roadrones have started to adopt the nomenclature of the Triglavians. Perhaps because this swarm was named by the Triglavians too. But it is also interesting that the anchoring is not a scram like you would expect with the Triglavians. So the sites themselves are just open sites. Anybody can find them. Anybody can warp to them. No probe scanner required to actually get to the hacking sites. Now then, in the mining sites, you get this neosilicate Rakavine, and it's worth noting that the amount that you get in any given rock is tiny. Like, when we did it, I had a venture, and I was 1 cycling or 2 cycling every rock I was on. until I was full. So, but the other thing about it is that it's tiny. It's half a million M3. So you mine a ton of it real fast. And it gives you Isogen and Zydrine along with the Neojadarite, which is what's needed for the event. So, I mean, like, Rakavine is already pretty good to mine. It's one of the best minerals to mine already. And this is Rakavine with extra stuff. That's very rare. I watched a streamer do 10s of the data sites and he only got one. Yeah, and I mean, like, if we need anywhere close to the same amount, we're talking about, you know, technically we're going to need 400,000 of these things made before this event is over. It is worth noting that doing this, mining these sites and hacking these sites and creating the doodads is now the only way to gain points for your personal track for the Caldari at this point. What's up? So the Neo Rakavine turns into Neojadarite, which gets used in the Muta-Adaptive Construction Component blueprint. Now the this is the doodad. Oh no, hold on. All right. Sorry. I will be getting a doorbell in a little bit, and I'll have to go deal with that for a few seconds. But other than that, we're good. Okay, so yeah, hello mode. I need to change that ringtone. So as you can see here, we have fulleриdes, phenolic composites, nanotransistors, hypersynaptic fibers, ferrogel, photonic metamaterials, terahertz metamaterials. We need what is this stuff made out of? Mercury rolled tungsten alloy, helium fuel block. Capital stuff. Weird. Is this new stuff or is this old stuff? I mean, like, did this get added in with the new requirements, industry changes? And then this is for mining crystals and radar sensor clusters. So Amar? Or? I don't know. Nope, there's gravimetric. Okay. Couldn't this drive up the prices of T2 hulls? I'm not seeing things that are used a lot in T2, standard T2. Well, there's T2 ammo right there. I mean, it could. I don't think that this is going to be that dramatic of an impact on that, because the thing is that the T2 prices have been crashing a lot recently. They've suffered the most since out of these changes. So this could just be a way of helping kind of boost up some of those moons. Now, here's the thing. I don't, off the top of my head, know what kind of mineral this is. Or what kind of, like, R64, R32. So I don't know what kind of moon mining they're trying to buff through this. That's the thing. As far as planetary materials, we need 5 smart fab units, which is a tier 3 component made from miniature electronics and construction blocks, as well as the organic mortar applicators that we knew we were going to need. And then we also require, oh yeah, all 4 carbide plates, the same as we expected before. So this is all, sorry, all 4 of the armor plates for the 4 different races, as well as the tritanium, isogen, zydrine, and neojaderite. Now, this requires the same amount of neojaderite as isogen. So let's look at the results. You end up with almost twice as much. You end up with almost twice as much isogen as you need. How you gonna do, little man? I should just be on, like, this guy? Are they killing him? No, I can go to the can. Is he just gonna hack the can? No, he is gonna fight him. He's fighting him. He's just a standard heron. Hornet 2. He's not fighting them. He's launched his drones, but they aren't auto-attacking. Not Grubhub. I've got to apparently sign a thing. So he's hacking. He's pulled in his drones. My question is he screwed? Does he plan on stopping them in some way? Or does he plan on burning out of their range somehow? They move real fast. They move at like 4K. I mean, he's obviously prepared to tank them. He's just tanking them. Maybe he's bait? Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. He could, yeah, that's true. He could just do it with the Heron, and then when he's done, he could just bring in the thing that kills all the rats real quick. Kill them, and then get off. Oh! He blew up the can. Whoopsie. I mean, he's no new bro. He's going for the second can, and now he does have his the rats are now attacking the drone. Those are some pretty cool nodes. Oh, there it is. Let me know what happens. So it looks to me like he finished a hack, but now has a second warp in. How many drones does a Heron normally have? Has he lost a drone? Yes. Maybe? I think so. He is trying to kill him. He only has to kill the anchoring. Can you take part in this without... Anybody can go do the mining and hacking. you just can't turn it in for anybody until they're done with their... you'll have to wait to turn in until the research is complete for the various sides. Or for your side. Yes, they're sleeper difficulty cans. Which, so the highest difficulty cans in the game. So... he hasn't killed all of the anchoring yet. Oh. Oh dear. There's the Legion. Who is shooting at the Heron. The Heron's dead. And potted. So pretty sure the rats did the potting. I didn't see a second shot with lasers. I was too. And the rogue drones clean up her drones, leaving only the probes behind. I mean, we assume it's cheap to replace. Who knows what they loaded on it? Now we'll see the kill mail soon enough. That was pretty legit. All right. Where were we? Oh yeah. You hack these cans. Apparently try not to get killed like that. You get the BPCs and other trig loot and stuff in there. And then you mine the sites, get the Neo-Rakavine, or the, whatever, Neodicite, right? And then, you know, build the components and then turn them in, and poof, you have a shipcaster. All right, so that's phase 2, more or less, in a nutshell. As you can see, the rats do very little damage. And these are the same rats in the mining sites, by the way. So what we were doing is we were just killing them down to like 2 tangling and then just warping around. Here, this might be a new thing to do. Let's just go like keep our eye on a site. Oh, both killed by the player? Okay. All right. Well, either way, let's keep going. Those sites belong to the Caldari currently. Those sites belong to the Triglavians. No, the Caldari are the only people that can turn in the doodads once completed. Correct. As of right now. Excuse me. What I find interesting is how much longer. So the Caldari space to get these to get the doodads for the relay tech is very brutal. It's Caldari high sec, and it's just every time. I haven't actually gotten a chance to go in it because, you know, faction warfare and all that. But everybody who I've heard going to it, it comes back with bad stories, like to the point where even our battle cruisers are ending up in low sec. How does it feel to be behind Amar? Well, given the fact that our total, given our total is as high as it is, I don't like. I hardly think that we're behind Amar. Well, actually, what's nice is, if you look here, we're getting closer and closer to just straight up catching up with Amar. So, if you think about it, we've accomplished 31%, and the Amar has accomplished 12%. Low sec Black Rise was chill for exploration, waylay couriers. Exactly, yeah. The only difficulty, honestly, I've had is finding the sites. because they're more compressed in the high sec. Now, they're not as bad as they were the first day or two, but they can be sometimes a pain in the butt to find. Although I did find a system with 4 data sites, was able to run them all, and I came out with like over 150 million estimated, and I think, I don't know, it was like 12 cores. On the Warfront side, I will say it's been going pretty okay for us. I hear that there's Caldari people complaining about how hard it is to take Haley, so that's cool. We've taken a boon. I think we've talked about this before. We relost Mock, so it'll be hard to see. It'll be interesting to see how this continues to go. Ugalis is now under a lot of pressure again. And interestingly enough, the constant flip-flopping in faction warfare is one of the reasons why Intaki was acted upon. So that's fun. Yeah, tons of people are just stockpiling those components for when their side can turn it in. That's correct. Just need to grow a pair and run Besiege. Well, that's the thing. Like, if I could find them consistently, then I would absolutely go ahead and do that. And we have a few times. Only disappointment I got from this event is that you can farm sites in your own space once they start spawning. It is a bit odd, but you don't get points for it. Also, I think people should be pretty excited that a proper event is about to start too, with like high sec sites and everything like that. Which may be a good segue. Is that a good segue? Should we start talking about it? I want to start talking about it. Let us talk about the new event. Actually, no. I wanted to do something different. I have a video that came out 9 days ago that I want to react to. And the reason why is because I think that it's really important to understand CCP's position on things, where they're going. And I know that with that, especially with the blockchain stuff coming up and all that stuff, I think a lot of us have had a lot of questions about that. And there has been an interview that he did, that Hilmar did, the CEO of EVE Online, of CCP, did with the guys at A16Z, which is like the big, that's the crypto guys, right? So obviously this interview is kind of a low-key get people hyped up for the crypto space possibilities. But what he says about the game itself is both very illuminating and also might help understand what actually happened when it came to this whole like decision to do a crypto thing. All right, so again, this is just to try to get into the head of the guy who makes the decisions about the company.
Our biggest role is in some way managing the economy, and it's a bit of an unfortunate role. Like the way that things enter and exit EVE Online is pretty good. I mean, we are here 20 years later, but it.
So he's talking about the standard ISK, or what we call the faucets and sinks, right? The things that put the systems that put things into the game or ISK into the game, and the things that make sure that stuff gets taken out of the economy. For the economy to be healthy, these need to be balanced. And this is the sort of thing that we talk about all the time when we're talking about like EVE's economic health and all that stuff. ISK faucets, ISK sinks, etc., etc. So, this is well-tread territory.
Also wasn't designed to run for 20 years. Like when we were designing the inputs and the outputs of the economy, we were I mean, we were 27. When you're 27, like 3 years is eternity. So
This is actually an interesting point, and this is one of the things I wanted to bring up. When EVE Online was first designed, which is like a lot of the systems that underlie the basis of EVE Online, their dream was a game that lasted 3 years. Okay? So none of this was originally designed to be sustainable.
So there is this aspect of like the game was procedurally generated, but the world does not have its own ability to procedurally regenerate itself. So the mineral distribution, etc., is very rigid. It's all very sort of mechanical. It's all very deterministic. And
so what he's talking about there is the fact that, like, you know, the different minerals that spawn in the different places, the way that things, where the belts are, what planets are where, how the sites spawn, all that kind of stuff. It was generated once and was static. This is the very thing that he was complaining about the summer during blackout. Okay, the idea that everything in the universe was static, and from that point on, a lot of CCP's efforts has been in trying to make systems that are mutable, that can change over time, dynamically, right? Based on what people are doing, either based on shorter-lived things that change over time, or systems that can be burned down, like bounty, the dynamic bounty system. Even the inclusion of anomalies versus belts when it comes to ore and all that kind of stuff. These all make those systems much more flexible. You add on to that their more crazy technology, like the basically system mutaplasmids that they've used to change security status, change resources available, change all kinds of stuff about a system dynamically. I think that you can clearly see, like, we can look back and see what he's talking about and maybe help understand why they've had those priorities over the last few years.
Players are really smart in spotting the deterministic patterns that are underneath. So they find these staple solves where they're able, in a similar way as with mining into the jet cans, get a lot more minerals than the game is designed for. And then
so what he's telling here, this is actually only part of an interview, and this is referencing a story that he likes to tell about when he first started playing EVE. In the game, in the beginning, jet cans were not originally designed to be in the game. And when they first discovered that players were using it, they were effectively a dev quick hack to let them put something into space. And that's why, like, their size was so big and they weren't really balanced around. And so people were using jet can mining in order to make it so they could synergize and mine a whole bunch more efficiently. And that made it so that they could make enough money and it go through all of the content fast enough. Now, this is an interesting point, which is that from CCP's point of view, or at least CCP Hilmar's point of view, it seems as if the systems being solved is a bad thing, right? We often talk about the comfort of things like mission running and being able to, like, you know, having these reliable systems. And a lot of the people that have gotten mad because their reliable systems have been disrupted. But it seems here that, like, this is one of the reasons why they don't explain stuff when they put it out to us. They want, not only do they want us to solve the problem ourselves, not only do they want us to figure it out ourselves, they want us to take a long time doing it, because to them, that's the content. That's what they can provide for us. So the longer it takes for us to figure things out, the more like actual mileage they get out of that content from CCP's side. And that actually is a really interesting insight.
the economy goes out of whack, because most of the economy then destroys things through war. So the game is overly reliant on the fact that it is kind of deterministically reseating all its resources. Players are super quick at understanding how that works. They amass up a lot of assets, and then the the war of attrition of those assets is not enough to compete with players' ability to understand the patterns. So we have had to do a lot of sort of manual intervention.
So what you're hearing there is basically his description of EVE Online circa 2018, 2019, right? Where basically, I wonder why no one brought it up on Reddit. I assume because A16Z, like, nobody's watching that. Either way, what he's describing there is where we're at. And this is interesting when we hear complaints from people from scarcity and whatnot. And this is kind of one of those truisms that I like to say, but it's hard to say to somebody in the moment to their face, which is that, you know, you say that CCP is not listening to your feedback, but you must accept the possibility that CCP is in fact listening to your feedback, and that your feedback is letting them know that whatever it is that they were trying to do is working, right? So, the player base felt that having cheap ships so that way they could just whelp stuff all the time in a meaningless fashion is the way to go, right? Like, that's content. Look at how much content there is, how cheap the ships are. These are good things. These are things that have been popularly referred to as like the reason why scarcity was bad. But from CCP's point of view, that is not true. That idea of like, well, we have so many resources and we can build up our resources faster than we can destroy them, and gamifying the entire thing. That Heron did not make it. And therefore, there's no longer, like, yes, there may be bigger and crazier fights with more Titans on the field, but the meaning behind that has been lost somewhere. You know, death is a serious matter is one of the core tenets of EVE. And so I can see where he can describe that exact same scenario that players would describe as like the utopia of pre-scarcity, but look at it as like, this is the game broken. This is the game no longer working.
Into how the mineral distribution and acquisition and all that works.
I see.
So sometimes we have had to run like almost like scarcity periods to kind of.
I do think this is really funny how he phrases this. Remember, we are not the audience for this discussion. The audience for this discussion is a bunch of crypto bros and other kind of like, this is ultimately, this interview is to sell their next venture. So when he's talking about EVE Online, he's basically bringing it up as his credentials and why he knows what he knows. But when he's talking about like, what he's ultimately trying to do is say that, like, the message here is, I'm going to take that and make something even better, the thing I could never make with EVE Online, right? So, spoiler alert, that's the overall motif I got from it. That's the vibe. So, yeah.
Into how the.
I just think it's funny, given how we feel about scarcity and more about how it's been phrased. Scarcity is one of those. CCP don't even like calling it scarcity. It was a shortage period. But if you hear this guy, if you listen to Hilmar, it sounds like scarcity was this thing that, like, they've done it multiple times, and sometimes they got to do it. And we just did it once recently.
The mineral distribution and acquisition and all that works.
I see.
So sometimes we have had to run like almost like scarcity periods.
Sometimes
kind of,
almost like
inflate the
scarcity.
economy to a reasonable level, and we're just kind of coming out of one.
This is the equivalent.
Just kind of coming out of one.
So this is actually the equivalent of like controlling the uranium distribution on planet Earth, or like where is crude oil on planet Earth. This is more like that.
The natural resources.
Yeah, the natural resources of the world don't really have the ability to procedurally regenerate itself, to be in almost like a dialogue with the populace of the world on how the resources become scarce and shift around and deplete, etc. And if I were to have like a magic wand and do something with Eve, I would find the way to make the game behave even more like nature.
So that's it. Ready? The thing that makes the simulation not work in Hilmar's eyes is the lack of depletion of resources. That it's not just the fact that the belts are always in the same place. It's that the ore respawns without fail every single time. And he'll go into this more, but like the whole point is that isn't how it works a lot of the time, and increasing desperation breeds innovation.
By sort of procedurally regenerating
I'm getting there,
itself
Malak.
in a way that would be surprising to us and surprising to players.
I keep on having to pinch myself to be like, are we talking about real world or the game? When we
I
talk
know
about these philosophies,
yes, yeah,
you know, it's like we can't regenerate fossil fuels. It's like the equivalent of that, right?
Yes,
So there are equivalents in the world.
Yeah.
The world's obviously a little bit richer in things, but
but the scarcity of resources and the technology innovation level that is needed to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and oil is a really good example. First, we were taking it from the surface, and it was almost just like coming out of the ground on its own. And now people need like extremely high tech equipment to get kind of the last drenches of oil that are still left. And that actually is like those kind of technology innovation leaps are very useful MMO game design mechanics, and especially if you allow people to even invent it on their own, which is doable through kind of social composability. But again, going back to Eve, the fact that it is rather deterministic and it doesn't really deplete, and you don't really have to reach deeper and deeper and deeper, kind of it then lacks this beauty that is in the depleting resource model that we have on planet Earth.
Okay, so we are now going to kind of like, this is interesting stuff, but now let's talk about why this video is being made, or like what his actual message is here, I think. So what we're getting at here is that he's describing the problem that needs solving, right? Oh man, if only there is some way to like work natural scarcity somehow into this system. If there is some sort of like way to like limit the number of things available, and therefore each one of them ends up having real value. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't take very long to say, just tokenize the resources. And yes, that probably means absolutely nothing, but it's worth $40 million.
Should we like? That's like a perfect segue to talk about the technologies of today, and like, you know, when you say you wave the magic wand, what would you do better in a, you know?
Oh man, we couldn't do it 20 years ago, but with the technology of today,
A different kind of Eve universe. Like, I feel that, well, initially it was servers, and it was processing speeds, and you know, that was like an innovation that allowed for more kinds of gameplay. You know, 2 decades have passed since the game has come out, and now we're at a point, you know, days.
The scarcity period was a time in from 2020 to 2022 where CCP significantly curtailed the amount of resources that were able to be found in EVE Online. There's the road drones. You could have that 60. Look,
After
it is a sales pitch.
our announcement and looking forward in the future of Eve, like, what technology do you see right now is potentially opening up more chapters of like the Eve universe?
So I think it's both technologies, but it's mostly techniques, which is also important to realize, like design techniques to address some of the things we have observed about Eve, which if we had a time machine, I would go and change those initial contextions. It's actually more techniques than it is technology.
So this is really interesting because he is talking about Eve right now. What he's saying is that we can't go back in time and change those initial conditions. Eve is a static universe, which means it's currently a static universe, but it means that the current state of the game, including all the players and everything, is based on that static universe. And so what he's talking about is the strategies that they actually did use and have been using, and he's saying that it's mostly through design tweaks, design philosophies, right? And so when people talk about how Eve has changed, well, yeah, this is pretty much it. What they're saying is that they've developed new design philosophies that now get applied into different places in order to breed more interesting gameplay, which is exactly what we've seen.
Like in terms of technology, sure, we have faster CPUs, sure, we have different programming languages, etc.
Oh.
But like nothing really materially has changed. Maybe some of the AI stuff is materially different, but it's still very early days.
So that's actually really interesting too, because when we think about like ways that you've improved the game, like through tech, like they said early, hardware stuff, this is beyond hardware stuff. So my first thing would be like, well, all of their AI work, that's what's been the most, like a lot of the work that I've seen at least has been towards that. They're making the rats better and smarter and do different things. But he's saying like that's just the underlying stuff. That isn't even the stuff that he's talking about.
But these techniques, I would think a lot about that, especially like all this deterministic behavior in the base layer of EVE Online. When we look at our own reality, everything is probabilities, like shockingly so and irritatingly so. When you look at the quantum world, it's like mind-bogglingly like probability, kind of like, and everything we look at is probability based, and Eve is just too deterministic, and the probability patterns and the probability distributions that we could employ, and especially with like a shifting kind of resource landscape, almost like a weather, becomes just a fundamentally more interesting world to crack the code, rather than what we have in Eve, which is fairly regimented, deterministic, and predictable. And predictability brings boredom at some point. So
again, what's interesting here is that the underlying premise is that the goal of the players, the main gameplay, is the like assessment of the patterns and the systems, right? The more dynamic those can be, the more the longer it'll take players to figure it out. That's the content. And that the state in which we have it all figured out, which was a lot of like 2018 really, right? That is like a nightmare scenario. And I get that, because I think that does get represented in what we see in a lot of these people that are jaded or that are mad about stuff that has happened or whatever, is that, you know, universally they have divorced themselves from like looking at the universe as a universe and as something that is interesting in its own right. And so while a lot of players focus on the accumulation of power, the developers, and Hilmar in particular, are more interested in creating an interesting universe, a universe that feels alive, a universe that can be defined on a wiki page that easily with formulas and stuff, or not even that. You can just look up, you can just Google, you can search for any given system and find out exactly what's there from 20 years ago. You know, like, yeah, that isn't as interesting as the universe. I can see how, as a developer now, he sees that as almost like a Tinker Toys version of making the universe, and almost like a regret that it's that way.
That is one. I would make the world a lot more probabilistic. We have some probability.
Well, no, because we're not talking about loot pools, because loot pools, those are a thing that's in the game. That's output. We're talking about input variables, right? We're talking about which rats are even there, what loot pools, what the loot pool is, what, you know, whatever. The universe itself, not the stuff going on, the individual thing in the universe.
Outcomes in EVE Online, largely in a concept that is called wormholes. Immediately, people are creating gods. Like Eve players are creating.
Oh, this is really, really, really interesting. Okay, so when Hilmar wants to talk about the top thing about like what he means by this, Eve working at its best, listen to what he talks about and why he thinks it's cool.
Immediately, that is one. I would make the world a lot more probabilistic. We have some probabilistic outcomes in EVE Online, largely in a concept that is called wormholes. Immediately, people are creating gods. Like Eve players have created a god, it's called Bob. It controls the probability distribution of where wormholes appear and how they're rolled out and down. And Eve players exist in a very interesting dynamic with their own god creation, where it's both a joke and also not a joke. And it's usually when you're creating gods to get sense of controlling your environment, that is like mankind at its peak. Like,
Okay. So, when he talks about why the randomness in wormholes has lent itself to being a good example, he doesn't bring up the popularity of wormholes. He doesn't bring up any of that stuff at all. He brings up the fact that we invented a god to explain the randomness. And what's interesting about that is that if you think about, again, if you think about it from CCP's point of view, when it comes to us, what's interesting to them isn't how big your wallet is, it's the social constructs that we make, right? It's the social, or it's the, you know, the self-made content like Katia Sai, right? That really gets their attention. They don't care who can rat the most. They care about, you know, people doing genuinely interesting things. And so, like, if you're totally up yourself when it comes to this kind of thing, and you are focused on like the friendship machine and whatnot, you can look at this and say like, well, on the one hand, Bob is a joke. But on the other hand, over time, it's less and less so. And you think, oh, well, it's a game. Obviously, nobody knows it. But then you think, well, how did the gods function in like Greek or Roman or whatever? Like, obviously, they didn't see their deities, but they ascribed them to these things. Like, at what point do we actually bleed over if all of the records, if all of the artifacts that we put out about Bob speaks of him as a religious god, then the archaeologists that come after us would assume that we worshipped a god named Bob for realsies. Like, this is, but more importantly, his point is that is another degree of social interaction. That is an amount of cohesion. That is a humanity-specific thing to look into your environment and try to explain it through deities. And that's why he's interested in it, because basically his little puzzle with a little bit of randomness made it so that the humanity, you know, our humanity is out in full display.
This is what we do when we're faced with an enigma that needs the invention of a god to explain. So building a world that it is imbued with properties which are so deeply interesting that you enter into this domain is the high bar of virtual world creation.
So for 2016, 2017, we were all like, EVE Online is about the players. And, you know, a lot of the stuff that we've done was based on that, and that's fine. But it really seems to me like what he's saying is that EVE Online should be about an interesting universe. Now, maybe not not saying that that's at the expense of the players. The players are part of an interesting universe. But we had always conceded the fact that the universe itself is actually kind of boring. And he's never gotten over that.
And we have seen from experimentation with EVE and learning from EVE players also, like making a world that's way more built on these principles will be a much bigger enigma to crack. So that's number one. Number two.
So that's an interesting one. Basically, if the dynamics of the systems change, it makes it harder for them to be, solved problems. And while that's true, that's definitely where the question comes in, right? Like, is that really where the fun game is? This feels to me like one of those things where, like, with Diablo 2, they thought that the fun thing was trading items, and so they made the real money auction house. But then they discovered that actually that isn't the reason what thing people actually wanted. That's what people were doing, was trading. But it was the acquisition that was obviously the more exciting thing, and so they changed it, and like Diablo 3 is pretty good now in that regard. So in the same way, I asked myself, like, he seems to be implying that, okay, well, an unsolved mystery is interesting. Eve was too easy to... Eve has been solved, therefore Eve is no longer interesting in that regard. If we make a system that's harder to solve, then it will be more interesting. And I'm not sure if that second part checks out or not, but I guess we'll find out. Hey, thank you for that, Christopher Wolf. Hope all is well. First time tuning in live. What keeps you playing? New old player, just got into carrier ratting, but I find it hard to keep playing. Well, because honestly, what I do is I look into myself and I figure out what skills I want to work on. And I see how I can use EVE Online for that. This is why I got into content creation, because I wanted to get into video editing. I wanted to get into audio editing, all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, it's a microcosmic social area for you to build up on skills and to do schemes. The best way to keep playing is to set up objectives that are broad and continue to, expand as necessary, I guess, the whole point is, what is interesting about EVE is solving problems. So if you're getting bored, it's possible that you've solved all your problems, and that just means that you should encompass another layer of the system.
Is that the EVE material economy is pretty interesting. So acquire resources, compose into modules, take modules, build spaceships, take spaceships, mine some more, build space stations. But this is all a material economy. We have attempted.
The US text code is very complex but not interesting. Au contraire, I bet you that there are some people that are legitimately find figure out find the act of using the different tax codes in order to find in that little bit for themselves or them people, like that's their thrill, is to, here's all the rules, now let's figure out the best way to shuffle the pieces together.
Attempted many times to add like energy to it. I could take the example of a thing called strontium that was for a period of time used in EVE Online.
This is actually super interesting too. Okay, so this is the other piece of it. So he talks about energy, and at first I was like, energy? Because, I think that gives me flashbacks to Farmville. But what he talks about here is actually really interesting and gets me thinking about stuff. So we'll talk about it in just a second.
Material economy. We have attempted many times to add like energy to it. I could take the example of a thing called strontium that was for a period of time used in EVE Online to power certain types of infrastructure. And we're always looking for ways to create a design space where the scarcity function is not only time. And when you have this,
So when he says energy, what he means is basically fuel. But like fuel is like the constant thing. But if you notice, like, this makes sense, right? This is why structures fuel is more used on what activities that they're consuming, rather than just like, I mean, I don't know if that's a really good example, but over and over again, we find that they're leaning in on this idea of the use of fuel. The best example I could come up with that I found is and this is going to be more understandable as he gets a little bit later, but crab beacons and the faction warfare beacons, because there's a resource that has to be farmed to be able to run the crab beacon, you have to build these things, then there's a cost to running the actual site, not just the reward from the site. And obviously that affects the value of the site, but more importantly, it limits the amount people can just continually grind it, and it makes it more than just time. You also need to have this other thing.
It does not cost any energy to acquire minerals. The only scarcity is the amount of time you have, and that leads to an obvious outcome, which I'm gonna call agency stacking. And just to explain the language a bit, so agency is your ability to affect the world. If I can stack my agency, I can multiply myself, either because I'm playing many clients at the same time, or I am having parts of the clients I'm running played by robots. There's no downside. It's always better just to stack
To
your
have more
agency.
and more
Yeah.
and more. Yeah.
It's better.
So what's really interesting about this is that by that logic, if you assume that agency stacking is a problem or is a bad thing, or at least a bad symptom, this puts botting and multi-boxing on similar footing when it comes to its impact on EVE Online, which is really interesting. Now, he's going to explain this a little bit more, but to be very clear, what we're really saying here is not that people shouldn't multi-box. It's that the game should be built in such a way that that multi-boxing isn't a like just a good thing by definition.
To have more. This creates a perpetual problem in EVE Online where we're fighting bots.
Yeah.
And we want to fight bots because we want it to be valuable to be human playing the game. We don't want the game to be about like programming bots. We want the game to be about playing the game. And in the absence of energy being consumed by actions in the world, you only have time. So adding energy on top of this probabilistic outcomes gives a focused human mind a chance to always win against bots.
If there is fuel or requirements or randomized outputs, then a player can outcome a bot. So again, going back to the crab beacon, crab beacons are a great example of having just enough where it's like, this is bot resistant, as it were. Now, obviously, they are, you know, a lot of people will multi-box those sites, but the thing is that that doesn't necessarily increase the reward. So it's not just like inherently better to just continually, scale up your multi-boxing as far as you possibly can. What I find interesting about this is that, like, the botting fight is continuous, right? It's an arms race. No matter how much the security team work on it, and they do better and better, the bots will just keep on being made and all that sort of stuff. You don't beat bots by making by hunting them down and destroying them. You defeat bots by making the game less bottable. I don't know what else to say.
Interesting.
And this is something profound and fundamental in taking us decades to really sort of hone in on these. So these two things, if I were to just wave a magic wand and change these two things in EVE Online, and I would have to go to the beginning because you can't really change these initial conditions on year 20. That would be some of the techniques I would take with myself to create another world.
We hope you like this clip. If you want to watch the full episode.
So that's it. So that's why, right? Like, so this is both the problems that they've identified, and of course for the pitch, thinking about like where they would want to go with this and why they would want to do this crypto stuff, right? I'm not going to go into pretend like I know anything about crypto games, because I don't, because they're silly, mostly. But the point is that like we clearly see here that a non-dynamic system, a non-dynamic universe, and a absence of a need to put in something, to do something, a lack of fuel or energy or whatever, are the things that he feels holds EVE Online back. Or at least those are the problems that he feels he can solve through this new blockchain game. I'll say this toxic community is first cause of death. I would argue that the toxic community often is a result of the game. Like it can be the death knell for sure, but I don't think you see like an otherwise amazingly constructed game and community, or like community manager or whatever, that like the toxic people just like drive everybody out necessarily. Maybe a few. If people don't want to play with each other, then there is no game. I agree. But the thing is that we also do have a phenomena, though, that like the vast majority of people that play MMOs want to do things in a social environment, but also by themselves, playing alone together, right? Final Fantasy XIV is a really good example of this, where they basically have a single-player game that just happens to take place in a multiplayer environment, and this like keys into a lot of people now. And EVE Online certainly has a place for that, right? There are plenty of single-player activities. You know, I'm happy to put together fleets and go do stuff, but honestly, like the day-to-day, the meat and potatoes are going to be something that I don't need to find a friend to just go do, that other people can come along when I'm doing it or whatever, and then we can snowball into something. But like, yeah, so for instance, the event that's coming up, you know, chances are I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing it solo, even though I'm totally willing to do it with a group, and it's, you know, better as a group or whatever. And more importantly, if it was impossible to be done without a group, I would also be doing it less. Because, you know, sometimes I just want to chill out, put on some music, and plow through some bad guys and make some money. I'm just saying that there's cause for both. And yes, community management is a huge thing. I think that multi-boxing can be absolutely okay. I've said this many, many times, but the short of it is that I think that multi-boxing that is designed to increase complexity, right? If I'm mining and I feel like mining with 9 people, I've actually added a whole bunch of complexity to what I'm doing, right? And so multi-boxing mining kind of makes sense. It's otherwise a very boring activity, or at least a low APM activity, I should say. So, you know, I like to think of it as like, how many plates can you keep spinning at one time? The other way to do multi-boxing is when you bring in like 9 orcas, and you don't care that they mine slower because you've got 9 of them. And so therefore you're using multi-boxing to trivialize or cheapen the deal. That's what I don't like. Things should be soloable, but more rewarding as a group. There should be things that are soloable. There should be things that are for a group. They should naturally progress one into the other if possible. And, yeah. You bring 5 Navy destroyers to sit in a Plex to not get disturbed. 5 Navy destroyers in a Plex is a very good way to not be disturbed. Okay. So. Let's talk about Hobo Leaks. Dark black or too bright, too bright. Don't worry, we're not going to be here for very long. The interesting thing about Hobo Leaks is that if we go to Tranquility Singularity, first of all, there's no differences between Tranquility and Singularity right now, which is what you normally expect, like during a big patch, like they did it a couple of days ago when they brought in the Caldari stuff. But if I look back to this morning, I can see that this patch was made. This is the event, the Capsuleer Day 20 event stuff. So when we look at this stuff today, what's worth noting is that we are not on Singularity. This is this is Tranquility. They can turn this on at any time. So to begin with, let's look at the text here. The Society of Conscious Thought will be clashing with Guri Malakim group of Angel Cartel and Guristas pirates across New Eden during Capsuleer Day 20. Choose a side and support. To support, you'll receive agency challenges with additional rewards every time you attack or hack the sites belonging to the enemies. So, and then the two sides. The Society of Conscious Thought has long been a quiet sponsor of the advancement of Capsuleer technology while seeking to protect the ancient technology from abuses of criminals and warlords. The SOCT researchers into ancient Jovian observatories are being disrupted and plundered by the Guri Malakim group of Angel Cartel and Guristas pirates. Stop the criminals and support the SOCT's efforts to advance the technology of New Eden, and you will be handsomely rewarded. Look for Guri Malakim survey-based combat sites in Highsec, Nullsec, Pochfin, and Wormhole space, as well as the more challenging Guri Malakim raider-based combat sites in Lowsec space. These sites can be found using your ship's built-in anomaly scanner. The acceleration gates used to enter these sites allow access to all combat ships of battlecruiser size and below, including T1 and T2 battlecruisers, as well as T1, T2, and T3 cruisers. The SOCT recommends the use of battlecruisers, heavy assault cruisers, strategic cruisers, or command ships to defeat hostile ships within these sites. Guri Malakin's survey expedition hacking sites can be probed down in Highsec, Nullsec, Pochfin, and Wormhole space, with the more secure Guri Malakim raiding expedition hacking site found in Lowsec space. These data sites can be found using scanner probes, and data analyzer modules will be required to hack open the containers and collect the loot within. Okay. As a miner, I need multiple accounts to make ISK. Like I said, mining has always been a multi-boxing activity, and I will defend mining as a multi-boxing activity forever, as long as it is the way it is right now. Because like I said, it's about keeping plates in the spinning. Okay. Oh, yeah. My blue screen isn't going to be perfect today, but... Oh, shoot. All right, hold on. Whatever. Then the Guri Malakim organization represents an alarming new joint venture between the two of the most powerful criminal organizations in New Eden. Led by Guristas pirate agent Esri Hokazusu and Angel Cartel assault leader Rafik Zohar, this dangerous new criminal enterprise appears set on obtaining and exploiting ancient Jovian technology and has come in conflict with the Society of Conscious Thought as a result. Assist in their operations, and you will reap the rewards while thwarting their plans of secretive and manipulative SOCT. Look for SOCT survey expedition combat sites in Highsec, Nullsec, Pochfin, and Wormhole space, as well as the more challenging SOCT retrieval expedition combat sites in Lowsec space. These sites can be found using your ship built-in anomaly scanners, blah, 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 all of the same stuff. So you're going to be able to make a decision about whether or not you want to work for the Angels or the Guristas or the SOCT. So that is interesting in and of itself. It does bring up the question of where is the deathless in all of this, and that's something I do want to touch on, but in a little bit. Let's look at some of the rewards. So first of all, this is another thing that's really weird. This is the first time I've ever seen this, okay? If I click on this, it gives me a totally black screen. If I click off of it, I can look at all of the rest of the... Oops. Yeah. I can look at all of the rest of the things. But if I put it on Capsuleer Day ones, it goes totally black screen. It doesn't render at all. I've never seen that happen. I'm covering the screen. There's a rumor that Galmil paid some goons to help them in faction warfare. Is that true, or were goons just there for funsies? I don't know of anybody paying goons. I know that goons are there for fun. The goons had been there for funsies. If I remember correct, well, I don't know of any time that any money was offered to anywhere. I don't know anything like that. I have no evidence of any of that. That's the first I've heard of such an accusation. And I was in contact with at least one of the guys that were associated with that, with one of the goon fleets that was kicking around over there, and they were just there out of boredom. So, other than that, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Now then, like I said, if I look at these skins, these all work. Capsuleer Day does not. So that's weird first and foremost. But we can kind of get something. There's another thing that does happen all the time, which is that the particle effect on one ship, on one skin, might show up on other skins, especially on Singularity at first. And yet, voila! Check it out! So that is clearly the hologram for the Capsuleer Day XX skin. You can see it on the Worm, and you can see it on the Merlin right now. On all of them. But you can't see the actual Capsuleer Day skin. This leads me to believe that what's actually happening is like a texture's missing that's causing it to just fail to render altogether. But obviously the hologram itself is perfectly fine, because there it is. Hey man, I absolutely respect Ramilla's commitment to Caldari's success. Like, you can't even hate on that, man. Like, that is dedication, no matter how you slice it. All right, so those are the skin. That's that skin. But then there is the Capsuleer Elite skin. No, there's the Gilded Predator skins. Okay, we have the Gilded Predator, Drake, Raven, Ishtar, Gila, Megathron, Eagle. So, very odd grouping of things. A Caldari Battlecruiser, Caldari Battleship, Gallente Hack, the Gila. So, the thing about these skins is that if we open them up, first of all, they're very pretty. They're black and gold. They kind of match the Shadow War skin. But the thing I noticed was this. Do you see that logo right there? We can see it on all of them. Once again, a badass skin. I like it. See, it's very similar to, but not quite the same as the Penumbral Shadows. It's all right, but the question is, like, what is that logo? And it drove me crazy. And then finally, I posted it in the lore channels, nothing. I posted it in Arydanika Research Consortium's Discord, nothing. Finally, I tweet it, and in comes, oh, Sissy will have the correct graphics and models in about 15 to 20 minutes. Excellent. Here comes Drake with the answer. I don't even know how he figured it out, but it does kind of lead us to know what's going on here. So, YC117. So if we look at the Serenity 117 skins, in particular, we're going to look at the Drake, because we just looked at the Drake. Hey, look, it's the same skin, including that same logo. So there you go. That's why these skins look that way. What that means is that I wouldn't expect that to be the real logo, that's the final logo. But it is kind of interesting because those skins were never offered over on Tranquility, ever. They were only on Singularity, as far as I know. So, you know, this reminds me of like the last event that they did. They also put in a bunch of skins from the old Singularity days. Sorry, old Serenity days. Every time I just said Singularity, I meant Serenity. I don't know how many times I've messed that up. But from the old Serenity days, and you know, use those for the, hold on, it's just easier to just look it up. Maybe. No way. Hold on. There it is, Serenity Water. So, like, this skin was one of them. And, you know, I think that I personally like the idea that they're finding new ways of bringing these skins in. I do wonder whether or not they're going to show off, you know, change that icon beforehand, or if that icon means anything. You want the Abaddon one? I know, right? Hold on. YC 117. I think I remember even back then being really bitter that we weren't going to get it. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That does look really slick. Serenity is the Chinese server. Kilo already has a lot of skins. Right. Oreo vibes. But as you can see, there's a lot more skins that they could have drawn from. So I don't know if this was like, if this is a complete set or whatever. We'll have to find out. But it looks like we're going to have to wait a little bit to be able to see the other skins and hop over to Singularity. So let's look at the boosters. First and foremost, we have boosters that it's 8 points that last for a day, 6 points that last for 3 days. Obviously double these if you've got Biology 5. And then the basic is 4 points for 1 day. We also have the return of Glamorix. This is a big one. If you want to get standings up, or if you want to do burner missions or whatever, you know, I'm going to talk about this a little bit in the end. But Hateless has a memorial service coming up. But in honor of Hateless, because he's the guy that really taught me about this, these Glamorix boosters increase your standings bonuses. So what you can do is, if you're into doing burner missions, you can get these things and then just pull burner missions and disregard all of the other missions. And the amount of standings that you get from this, with this on, basically makes it so you're fine. He loved Glamorix boosters. Next, we get observability boosters from the Guri Malakim. This would be sensor strength, signature radius. So it makes your signature radius smaller and your strength, your sensor strength up, which is odd because it actually makes you less observable, right? This would make you harder to probe down. The SOCT scan booster, scan strength bonus, and scan resolution bonus. I don't trust the Air Corporation at all. I'm just wondering when the shoe is going to drop. Yeah, no kidding. The Malakim shield booster. That's cool. Pretty straightforward. 12% for the max level armor repper, SOCT armor. So SOCT is going to be focused on armor, while the Angels and Grissus are shield. So the armor booster is 8% resistance. Turret booster, optimal range, and damage multiplier. That's going to be pretty good against for Triglavian ships. And then agility booster, warp speed bonus 16%, and inertia modifier negative 10%. That's going to be pretty good for some people trying to get around. If I'm not mistaken, didn't the Angel and Grissus attack air in the MPE? No, well, they're mysterious. No, they're mysterious mercenaries. And I went and looked because I thought I saw that icon from there, and it's no, I don't think so. It is a Macarial, Blackbird, and some worms, though. So maybe not a worm. I can't remember. Maybe it's just a Merlin. I don't remember. If it's funny, because I just did it this morning in order to check to see if that was where the icon came from. Either way, mercenaries with what look like a mock? It is a Macarial, but it has a skin that I've never seen anywhere else. So there's Jove observatories in the sites. Fortified bunkers. These are probably, so the SOCT have the Jove observatory, or there's the Jove observatories. Concord analysis revealed only scant and confusing information about the structure. Surveys, I think this is the normal Jove observatory description. So there's a Fortizar, and this is just stuff to be inside of the sites. Surveyed Jove observatory, rated Jove observatory, SOCT survey outpost. The Society of Conscious Thought has adapted this standard Concord observatory design for search and survey purposes using its own highly advanced technology. The SOCT is engaged in search for previously hidden Jove ruins, observatories, and other sites of interest involving the mysterious and vanished Jove Empire. The SOCT search efforts have acquired a new urgency given the activities of the Guri Malachim group, the Angel Cartel, and Grissus Pirates. A joint criminal enterprise that is clearly aimed at uncovering the secrets of the Jove. Infinite Celebration Firework. Cool. Grissus Manufacturing Plant. Some sound effects. Asbel Research Station. And some other stuff. The low-sec sites are going to be the best. There's going to be the harder hacking and combat sites there. There will also be both sites spawning, so you're going to have to find the correct sites for your side, just like in the Crimson Harvest. Now let's look at the rats. From the Guri Malachim side, we have the Griffin. Right now they have, looks like a kind of an Omni. Is it a... They're weaker in the shield. Dramiel. Or in EM in the shield, rather. Cinnable. Definitely EM hull. Hela. Tornado. The boss is a rattlesnake. Or a Macarial. And then the higher boss is a rattlesnake or a Macarial too. Then for the SOCT, we have the Pacifier, a Skybreaker. We'll get to that in a second. But a Metamorphosis, a Synesis, Enforcer, Stormbringer, Gnosis, and then the boss is Apraxis. The thing I find interesting about this is that the Edencom ships don't have a damage profile. So I wonder how they're going to do those. I think that they'll probably make those jump, with the normal, with their actual gun. So that's going to be interesting to have SOCT, or to have Edencom ships as hostile ships. But obviously, if you join the SOCT, you're going to be fighting the Guri Malachim. If you join the Guri Malachim, then you'll be fighting the SOCT. So, let's see. I had one of the... Oh, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about these guys that are involved in all of this. This is Esri Hakazosu. She's a Guristas spy who is operating in Jita 44, working on as part of the Caldari Navy, working on a project to revolutionize or revamp the capital ship program of the Caldari state, known as Project Phoenix. Last year during Easter, she was exposed and had to execute contingency omelet in order to get away. Spilling out a lot of their secrets, including the fact that she was meeting with a man named Leopold N. Villari, also known as the Peacock, who apparently either was very careless or a double agent, or it seems to work for the Deathless, and Esri has escaped. She is now apparently working along with Rafik Zohar. A year ago on Valentine's Day, or around Valentine's Day, the Angel Cartel attack and break into the Roqual, the Esperance, and they proceeded to kill a bunch of people in the facility, steal the place, and we had to run a rescue effort in order to in order to get those scientists back, right? So this is where ship compression came, or the new compression systems came from. So Esri Hogazosu has always had a connection to the Deathless through Leopold, and you can use a search routine to find her location. Rafik Zohar has always been kind of more mysterious. He showed up earlier. He's very much he seems like he's a Dust 514 kind of guy, more of a foot soldier than a pilot. Hey, thanks, Dave. But like he doesn't have direct ties with the Peacock or Deathless, and he also has not been searchable. Like, you can't find him in game, I don't think. Let me double check that. Let's see if anything has changed on that front. It has absolutely not changed. Maybe? I think this is a person. I think that's a person, like a player. That does not look like the actual guy. Okay, either way. So the fact that these two characters are working together is really curious to me. And I don't know if it's a good thing or not. Like, okay. On the one hand, the Valentine's Day event and the Easter event were both canceled. And the Angels and Guristas were busy doing other things. And so, like, that's the two people. And those are the two people from last year associated with those two events. And so, of course, they're the ones that are going to be teaming up. But, like, those two events were very disconnected before. And there has been a lot of, like, moving behind the scenes when it comes to the Deathless. And so kind of trying to track whether or not this is a Deathless move or not, or even has any justification whatsoever. Like, it seems very random that these two people would team up together. Now, there are some Deathless groups you know, some of the Deathless network is Thucker, but but I think that the Angels have always had a problem with them, and the Guristas. Esri Hokazosu is literally like screwed over by the Deathless, if this is true. So I firmly believe, I kind of believe that this new group, this new partnership, is not the Deathless, but may in fact be a reaction to the Deathless, right? I want to go back a little bit more into like the last year, and it's going to take more than just this morning to get it done. But like there have been a lot of like this group is converging with this group and peace greetings and stuff like that. Hold on. Where was it? Well, there's been lots of Guristas raids in Syndicate. That is what the Guristas has been doing a lot of. There's the Sekal clan repulsed by House Soram. That wasn't what I'm thinking about. So it's got to be earlier. And we still have Intaki, the Intaki situation to resolve. Angel Cartel and Guristas Pirates reportedly agree division of smuggling routes and spheres of influence. And before Intaki becomes the first battleground of the new shooter. My crazy prediction is still that Intaki actually becomes the headquarters of the Deathless, and that's the new faction. I see that about Sissy. We'll get over there in just a second. Report Angel Cartel and Krillifar Organization peace treaty in Anur as demand rises for controversy. And this is the one. Anur is the one that the Deathless, or Leopold at least, was supposedly like at this location. So that's interesting. Man, I don't know who's against who at this point. That's why I'm saying like I don't know if this is good or not, because on the one hand, I feel like the pieces are coming together. On the other hand, there certainly is a certain amount of like slapped together kind of like, is this just being done for the purposes of mechanics rather than actually a narrative? Now, so far it has, you know, they've come through with that kind of thing and done, you know, had a good job with making these things work out. But it does make me wonder, like, wait, so who's against who now? I can't, it's so hard to unwind the pirate stuff. I hope that we see some sort of resolution to that soon. Heirs of evil, mark my words. I mean, who's not evil? All right. Yeah, there's twists and turns mentioned. Let's see. There it is. DX9 model space object factory data.black. That maybe that getting updated is what was needed. Either way, Let's go ahead and open up Sissy. That's right. Like the stream for the piggies. My guinea pigs need your likes. How's it going, Danny? Awkward. Hold on a second. Oh, never mind. Is this gonna work? Yay, it worked.
Connecting.
That's okay. I was just messing up anyways. It's fine. You didn't miss anything important. I don't know why I didn't unmute it. That's weird. Don't mind me. I'm on Singularity now. But, none of my stuff is actually moved over here. Wait a minute. What the hell just happened? There we go. I don't know what that was all about. Oh, that's... Okay, that's just the folder. Alright, either way. Here are the skins. Where are the hologram skins? Weren't those supposed to come out in December last year? What are you talking about? Which hologram skins? CSP will actually be focusing on faction warfare style NPC null conflicts in the future, so this is also related to building up for those. That's true. Alright, Cinnable Capsuleer Day skin. Hey! Look at this! There it is. And I actually really like the fact that it's a recolor of the same texture of the stuff. That's actually kind of interesting. Is there the other one? Oh, the logos came out. That was the first step. We haven't gotten further than that. Oh, shoot. A Mars shuttle. I mean, that's pretty cool looking. I actually won't lie. That one looked all right. Avatar. The double X in the back. Waiting for a skin that evolves. Yeah. Well, the new skin, the rabbit skin changes based on how many kill marks you have. Like, it shoots out fireworks. That's cool. I wonder what the difference between the elite and the normal is. Maybe the elite is going to be sold? But there's no diamond next to it. Yeah, the, no, not Paladin. Is it Paladin? No. This one. bring back... Well, so, like, the thing is that if we go into the New Eden store, we can see... I think they'll still be here. Or are they gone now? Are they gone now? They finally got rid of them. Just in time to make me wrong. No. Not up until not too long ago. There it is. Capsuleer Elite XIX skin. So... This is why I was saying, like, I wonder if the Elite skin is going to be paid for, because that's the way it was last year. How do they look at minimum graphics? Hold on. Here's the Drake Navy issue. Where's the double X? I don't see it. Let's find one with it. Let's find one that's actually like working, okay? Praxis? Okay, this is cool. Oh, that's cool. You've got the X on the side, you've got the cool thing. That's cool. Alright. And optimize for performance? Sure. There you go. That's potato mode. Any Mars ships? Let's see what they got. We have a Mars shuttle, Apocalypse Navy issue, Avatar. No. So there's a Drake Navy. That's weird. There's a Megathron Navy. So, is there any other Gallente ones? It looks like there's... Well, no, because there's a Drake Navy and a Scorpion Navy. So those are the same. That's kind of weird. It seems very random which ones are chosen. It's squeeze with delight for the Federation. Have you noticed a loss in quality when moving the camera while looking at skins? You know, it could be that they do... I mean, like, I'm not seeing anything, but it could be that they do, like, a LOD quick thing for when you're spinning. Okay, finally... There is one more thing to show off. Which is the Metamorphosis. So this one's really weird. We are getting a new ship. The Metamorphosis. It is a frigate. It is an SOCT frigate. It is like SOCT in many ways. It is different from SOCT in many ways. One of the ways it is like the SOCT is that it is an evenly built ship. So you've got 3, 3, and 3. Mid, high, and low. And it's got Omni tank and a lot of the other things that you would expect from an SOCT ship. All right. However, it gets a little bit more interesting. I can't look at the bonuses in game. I don't see them in game right now yet. They haven't updated the description or anything. But if we go back to Hobo Leaks, I'm not going to make you have to do it. I'll just read it for you. If you go back to Hobo Leaks, we'll see that there is, in fact, 5 new effects that are added. And it seems like these 5 new effects are the 5 effects that this ship has on it, the bonuses, okay? Actually, hold on a second. Let me take a step back. I'm ruining your immersion. I will show you it on Sissy. On here. Okay. There we go. Yes. So we can see that it is part of the special edition frigates, blah, 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 blah. We can see that all this is pretty standard. Ugh, hold on. Here we go. So there's a missile velocity bonus, a missile flight time bonus, an explosion radius bonus, a missile damage bonus, an explosion velocity bonus. I thought there was a... There's other thing. Oh, wait. I think I remember. If we go down here now, effects per type. Metamorphosis. So it has, here it is. It has a bonus to all damage types. It has a virus strength bonus, a missile bonus, drone hit point, covert ops cloaking CPU roll bonus, core probe strength and deviation bonus, probe launcher bonus, and data miner CPU roll bonus. So, and then we can come down here, or rather back up here, to see that the data miner CPU roll, yeah, these are the actual bonuses that are being made. And if I remember correctly, the bonuses are actually pretty good on the ship. So it looks like it's going to have all of the different damage types, and it's going to have, or all of the different weapon types, and it's going to have the hacking and scanning bonuses that you would expect from an SOCT. But there's a special bonus on here. There's a special attribute. There's a new attribute. Special mobile depot hold capacity. And we can see, if we go back in game... Oops, that's not the right one. If we go back into the game and we look at the metamorphosis, we can see that they have a special bay, the mobile depot hold capacity bonus, or capacity. So this can carry around its own mobile depot. So it's weird because mobile depots can obviously only be deployed, as of right now, mobile depots can only be deployed for yourself, right? So this is so that the metamorphosis can rearrange itself and refit. But it is fairly limited in what it can do. Like, I mean, it's still an exploration frigate. I guess you can go from like a combat mode. This is actually really cool for someone like me, ironically enough, who wants to go around and do like multiple different kinds of sites, or, you know, have a jack of all trades of some sort. So, no, they have not. They have not. But yeah, and it's got 3 drones. It looks like it's going to be a mean little ship. It's got 200 M3 of cargo by itself. With that extra, it can carry, I guess, 2 mobile depots. A mobile depot is 50, right? That's true. The alphas will be able to use this, which is pretty nice. Actually, that's really weird because alphas can use it, even though it can use Covert Ops Cloak, which alphas cannot use. The mobile depot is... $50, with the yurt being 50 and the Wee2 being 100. See, I thought so. Yeah, the Wee2 mobile depot is twice. The Wee2 double mobile depot is twice as big. That's why. Yeah, alphas can use the Steros without cloaks. That's true. So yeah, this is a really good opportunity to just introduce another way for exploration. I really like the idea that like there's these different upgrades from your ship, right? You can go to Navy frigates, you can go to the Astero, you can go to the Pacifier, and now you're going to be able to go to this. And yeah, it's probably going to be cheaper. Now, like other SOCT ships, it only requires Spaceship Command 1. However, and this is, again, this isn't ready, you know, like, it's not, I can't say it's not live yet, because it is, but it could theoretically still be changed. But the industry says that this actually takes real resources to build. Now, there's no blueprint to build this thing that we can see. So I'm not saying that we are going to build it, but you know what this does mean? This means that you're going to be able to insure these ships. And they're not going to just give you 5 ISK for the 1 tritanium that it's worth. That's kind of cool. Yeah, it's probably going to be a login reward. So yeah. There's a lot to come. It is coming soon. It is already on Tranquility, so they could start it at any time. Although the fact that they've already patched Singularity kind of suggests that it won't be today. But, you know, next week, for sure, we have Capsuleer Day. We have the elections coming in Taki. And we'll know a lot more. The data is in a string in the Hobo leaks? The date. Oh. Hold on. What day is it? What month is it? April? May? No. I can't find, I'm bad at this. Is it May 2nd? Is it the 6th? Because that's the only date I can find. Okay. Ah, there it is. From the 2nd to the 30th. Yep. So there you go. And so that starts next Tuesday, which tracks. A month-long event. Yeah, that also means that, I mean, like, remember, they've said that there's going to be twists and turns on this one, so who knows? All right. To wind things down a bit, they owe us a few events. I mean, this really is going to be like the two events wrapped up into one. The thing is that I wonder if the Guristas are hopefully going to be dropping the geckos. Anywho. So a couple other things before we go. First and foremost, I wanted to highlight a YouTuber that I think is really good. Starship News Network has started making lore videos. Now, it's very clear that their videos are like AI generated, for better or worse. You know, like some of it goes off on like a bunch of tangents or whatever. Not that I should be able to complain about that. But
The Caldari state is an authoritarian militaristic nation, founded on the pillars of duty, loyalty, efficiency, and hard work. While not as large a society as that of the Gallente or the Amar.
So this is an hour-long video. And so, like, if you just want to learn about the lore, he covers really good stuff. And it is factual. Like obviously, it's built from all of the lore that's out there. So these are quite good, even though they're basically just AI transcriptions of the information in EVE universe. In my opinion, that honestly makes it somewhat better. Yeah. So Starship News Network is cool. He's only got 82 subscribers. Let's fix that. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that there is going to be a real-life memorial service for Hateless going on. The details are Saturday, April 29th for the real world event. You know, I've said what I was going, like I said, talked about Hateless last time. He was a friend of mine. I really don't like the fact that this happened, but this does show how meaningful our community can be for each other. This is the same thing actually happened within our group a while ago, where us as an EVE community connected with someone the family of someone who's passed, and hopefully we can give some sort of comfort to each other. But here is all of the 07s of the people, you know, showing their support. So just wanted to bring that up because, yeah, it's a big deal. He was a big deal. With that name, it pops SpaceX's Elon videos and channels. Yeah, no kidding. All right. Well, let's see. With all that said, I think that might cover it for the day. I even went and checked out the data site. Can you link it, please? All of the links should already be in the video's description. Let me know if that's not true. If that is not true, then I will absolutely correct it. That is all I had prepared. I need to catch up in editing. And make more data cores. Alright, well, I guess on that note, I've been Ashrothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here to put EVE into context for you, my fellow Empyreans. Thank you guys so much for coming on this Thursday, April 27th, YC125. There has been a lot to cover, and hopefully you all have been informed, and there will be more to come. Tomorrow, I don't even know what we're going to be talking about. I'm open to suggestions. But next week, obviously, we have a new event coming, and everything that entails. So we'll be keeping an eye out for those, for any sort of updates. And before you leave, make sure to like the video if you haven't already. You know, comment. Let's say question of the day. Question of the day. Who? Last time we were hypothetical. Which pirate faction do you want to join? Now we can be more specific. Which side are you going to join in the upcoming event? SOCT or the new Guri Malakan? Which one of those two are you going to join? The Angels and Guristas or the SOCT? This is your first time to be able to work directly for the Garistas or Angels, so that I know of. So there you go.
Warping to Stargate.
Thank you for the subs. And of course, thank you to the super chats from earlier. And all the sponsors and supporters, especially my main supporters. Abyssus, Aikawarazu Chan, Arkas Ilring, Arydanika the Queen, Belligerent Neckbeard, Black Rose Noble, Dajat Lemmont, Drake, Golden Age Story, J. Kuhn, Lumi, Malak Starfire, Midnight Space Monkey, Not Just Fun, Seeds of Plenty, Serenlin with No Eye, Syliana Vel'ash, Tgen Tgen, Nephilim, Grendel, Yantey Lepouf, Zaul Nex, as well as my Immortal tier supporters 745 MPSI, Ebo Elite, May, Merc Utan, Nihilum, LM1, and Rid. Thank you all so much. 07, and until next time, I'll see you in space. You can't answer the question of the day now. You gotta go back when the video's over and put it as a comment. Do you guys even know anything? We'll teach you guys how to YouTube. I'm kidding. Thank you guys. Love you.
For every city